Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here for round 4 of Daily D&T this week. Let's see if we can get Taranika to do anything. We have not gotten in a Taranika attack yet. I would like to play first. His hand is garbage. His hand is great. We're going to throw back the sword. We don't have the mana for that right now, and we can get it with Stoneforge later if we want it. Man, just another slogfest, huh? We're just gonna do this again. Okay. That's the literal worst draw. Now we draw one less card when we play our Squadron Hawk. So that doesn't happen again, we're going to go ahead and draw 2 cards right now. Start building up our forces in the air. And then next turn, we can main phase Stoneforge, cast Jitte, and be set up to make our connection on the following turn. It will also be very safe because we have Mother of Runes, and my opponent probably can't pass the turn. Yeah, if you're playing Thalia, like I'm so good here. I guess no, I guess now I want to draw a land. We're very far ahead right now. All right, and we drew the land to push our advantage further. So it's pretty silly. So opponent is really going to need Phyrexian Revoker. Otherwise, I wipe their board next turn. And I don't feel like they have Revoker because Revoker on Aether Vial would have looked pretty darn good last turn. So it would have to be their draw for this turn. Alright, so what do we have for the mirror? We'll probably do about the same thing as before. So I think we ended up bringing in these 5 before, cutting my Thalias, cutting a Taranika, and then reluctantly keeping the other 2 in the deck because I'm worried about my creature count. So while normally D&T, like stock D&T, has 3 more creatures in these slots, we have 3 enchantments that will like let us win some of these mid-range fights, and like potentially like stop some Jitte blowouts and things of that nature. But it does mean that like we're lighter on threat density than a lot of builds, which is something that I don't necessarily love. But you know, here we are. You know, the alternative is like cut the Force of Virtues to play Gideons instead. That seems a little sketch on the draw. I want to keep this one. It's very soft to an opposing Aether Vial start, though. Why do I even say it? Why do I even say it? Okay, well, that's fair. I will probably end up pitching this Taranika to my Force of Virtue. I'm gonna wait on it because like there is a real question of like is the fourth Squadron Hawk better than the first Taranika? Why is that in your deck, friend? What are you doing? So because this is going to cost me 1 mana at any future turn, and because I think I'm going to be tight on mana, because I'm going to keep deploying Hawk after Hawk after Hawk, I think I'm just going to go ahead and slam that into play. And we'll go from there. All signs are pointing to my opponent is not experienced in the mirror. That's not a great draw, but we're going to have 8 power worth of flyers over the next couple of turns, so I think all is forgiven. So when your opponent's inexperienced in the mirror, you should be aware that you need to play around more things, because they might take more actions that are seen as like random and suboptimal to you. So like you may see things like, hey, I've brought in, I don't know, this cataclysm or something like that, and then it totally blows you out and you lose the game because of it. So like when your opponent maybe doesn't know the matchup well, they do weird things from time to time, is what I'm getting at here. I technically should have made an attack with Squadron Hawk first, but, you know, whatever. See if they have Sarah Avenger. No Sarah Avenger. So, I would never make this play versus a good player. I would wait this out. But there might be a Revoker or a Containment Priest coming in off of that. So I'm just dumping that dude into play. Alright, so now we have Jitte looming. As long as my mom is alive and they don't have a flyer, this isn't actually scary. Oh, friend, no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Okay. So if they have a Flickerwisp, we're still going to have 1 flyer held back to block it. So life's still okay. Although I guess if they have a Flickerwisp, they can flicker my mom and life's awkward. But it's not really like I'm going to beat that then. Alright, they didn't have the Flickerwisp. Life's pretty good. They're not dead yet, but it's definitely starting to get into scary time territory for them. So that's not bad. I need to not let them get Jitte counters. The way that I do that is by putting in another Squadron Hawk and protecting it instead of protecting Mom. And that kind of sucks, but that's the way that it is. Alright. So I have 8 damage showing in the air. A Force of Virtue or a Gideon represents a kill. We are going to tick this up to 3 for Flicker Wisp reasons. The land is a terrible, terrible draw. So I guess I'm turning everyone sideways. And then trying to block with Factory so that my opponent only gets 2 counters instead of 4. Will they see that they can port down my Factory to stop my blocks? If they see that, then I need to hold 1 Hawk back. So I can attack for 8, put them to 4. And it's still presenting lethal next turn if they only gain 2 counters. But if I attack for 6... So I attack for 6, put them to 6, and I give them 2 counters. They can gain 4 life, go to 10, and I'm not representing lethal next turn. So how bad of a shape am I in? Because I can win the game if they don't see tap down my Factory. But if they do see tap down my Factory, I'm super screwed. I don't think I can take the risk. I think I'm just going to attack with 3. Alright. Good. Jailer on my open Squadron Hawk is devastating. Because it would mean that my opponent gets a temporarily exile 1 of my Hawks, gain 4 Jitte counters, which they can use to kill 2 of the other ones. my god, they actually have it. So unless they play a flyer or have like a Swords of Plowshares, I still can take the Monarch back. But I have huge problems. Always no to that at this point. So this is another one of those times where like I have to play around my opponent realizing mid-combat that they should have ported me, and then porting me mid-combat and taking me off of Batterskull. That's the kind of stuff that I need to worry about. So accordingly, I'm going to play a suboptimal pre-combat Batterskull. Okay. I mean, I'm very appreciative that you used up all of your Jitte counters and only killed one of my creatures. We don't have more to search up. Alright, come on, Flicker Wisp. No. Nope. What are you doing? That does literally nothing. It protection from black. Oh my god. Alright, so my opponent is going to become the Monarch again. They're going to get to draw a card. Chump blocking Crusader. Or am I just going to let that go? I think I let it go because they used their Jitte counters kind of poorly last time. The goal here is that they blow their Jitte counters incorrectly and allow me to get the Batterskull equipped to one of my Squadron Hawks. So that's interesting. Can't really attack because of the Flicker Wisp. Alright. So we're going to pass the turn and hope that my opponent, on my turn, decides to go and use some Jitte counters to kill my Squadron Hawks. It's happening. All right. Really glad the opponent started the fight there. So my life total is now a problem. I haven't done the math for whether or not I'm just, like, stone cold dead. I might just be stone cold dead to my opponent, like, moving the Jitte around. Like, doing something like putting the Jitte on Mirror Crusader, then moving it back to the Flicker Wisp or something like that. Wait for me to activate it first. So I need to make this block. Otherwise, like, they can pump the Crusader and the Crusader alone kills me. I could then make a trade, but I don't know how I win without at least a body in play. So I'm just going to block one, and we'll see if I can dig myself out of this by, like, getting this Batterskull equipped. I shouldn't be able to do that. Awkwardly, the other Force of Virtue means that, like, oh my god! So my opponent, prior to regular combat damage, killed my creature, so they're not actually getting more Jitte counters. They have left themselves with 2 Jitte counters when they could have had more. I have the possibility to win this game. Wow. Okay. Of course. I probably need to leave myself the ability to spike a Swords to Plowshares through Rishadenport. So that probably means tapping like this. Again, my opponent using Jitte counters a little suboptimally. You want to use as few as possible. And, like, leave yourself with options. Alright, come on. Let me spike something. I've earned this. Yeah, whatever. My opponent doesn't know I have nothing. Alright, so I'm not dead to the Crusader, right? Can the Crusader kill my Squadron Hawk? It can deal 4 damage to it and get 4 Jitte counters? Yes. It can also kill it if I... So if I don't take anything, I die if my opponent knows how, like, stops on Moto work. If I block, though, I also am going to lose my entire board. So is my out to this game that my opponent does not have Moto stops set correctly? So otherwise, like, I can block Crusader. My opponent can use 2 Jitte counters to kill my Squadron Hawk by pumping Mirror Crusader and turning it into a 6/6. Otherwise, I block Flicker Wisp. And I make my opponent use all of the Jitte counters. Okay. So this is the line. The other line involves my opponent not having, like, their mid-combat stops set correctly. Alright. So for the future, they are not auto-yielding to those. Two mana, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, 1 mana. Sure. I'm not going to map this out. I should be dead, but, like, we'll make my opponent do it. Like, they should have me dead with just, like, Mirror Crusader alone. Like, that thing plus Pro White should do it, but... my opponent has made some errors this game. So we'll play keeping those in mind. The story of this entire match has been, if I draw anything that interacts with Umezawa's Jitte, my opponent is a sad panda. Sure. Alright, they've seen the line. I'll concede there. Save myself another 10 seconds of clock. So my opponent has kept Thalias in their deck. So does that make me want to do anything different about what I'm doing? It makes the prospect of boarding Gideon in way worse. In that, like, Gideon is going to be 5 mana instead of 4 mana. It makes my Force of Virtues worse, like hard casting them endgame. But I think, like, aggroing my opponent out in the air is still, like, totally fine and probably the way that I'm going to win this game. I think I'm just going to submit the same way. This hand does nothing. This hand is also utterly terrible. We can beat a Mom Start. We can't actually cast any of the 3-drops that I have in hand. We're super soft to an opposing Vile Start. We're super soft to a Rishadan Port. A 5-card hand is probably better than this. I'm going to reluctantly mulligan this. God. So this is what happens, huh? We play brilliantly. A 4-card hand doesn't win the D&T mirror most of the time. But this game is likely over before it starts. My opponent is, you know, effectively starting with 8 cards to my 5. We're going to have a tempo advantage, but we have no ability to take advantage of that tempo advantage. My draws off the top of the deck need to be insane. Yeah. We've probably lost this one now. So, like, my best play as of right now is Flicker Wisp my opponent's Vile to, like, buy time. And even that's probably not good enough anymore. We're going to play towards spiking Umezawa's Jitte next turn. That's my line to win this game. Note the main phase Flicker Wisp the Vile is noticeably worse than the end step Flicker Wisp the Vile. We're going to keep this on 2 so that we can draw Stoneforge and do our evil scheme. That's the wrong piece of equipment, but it's close. And before opponent has Mother of Runes as well as the Jitte. Oh, thank God they're not just going for Jitte. Yeah, this is fine. I don't care about that Batterskull. Like, you're letting me extend the length of the game. In before my opponent having Thalia in their deck messes up me leaving 1 mana for Source of Plowshares available. Like that sort of thing happening. Let's bluff a Revoker. No consideration from my opponent. We are going to leave this here. We're basically forced to make this play. Like I have very few resources. Is it just happening? I mean, yeah. I guess that's what I get for like waiting to see if I drew a Revoker rather than piling in my Stoneforge ahead of, or my Squadron Hawk ahead of time. Uh-huh. What stupid thing could be in their deck that bites me in the butt? Glow Rider. Vryn Wingmare. So might as well do it now. Now they'll just have Flicker Wisp and reset their Batterskull, but like whatever. But I just like can't risk them having something stupid in their deck that they shouldn't have in their deck. And like I lose the game because I don't Swords to Plowshares there. Now I'll take this up for my own Flicker Wisp. Super punish, but that's okay. It'll be kind of funny if I lose this one because I played around my opponent having a garbage card. No, alright, it was just going to be a string of Flicker Wisps. Okay. You're also supposed to remove the Squadron Hawk there, so never mind. It's not worth it at this point. You also don't use a Jitte counter there, because there's no need to. Needle, Revoker, Council's Judgment, Flicker Wisp, Palace Jailer, if I have one. No, I don't have a Jailer. Would all be insane. Sure. Alright. Let's never play Death and Taxes ever again. That is very disappointing.